Got a good turnout today.
Good, bud.
What's that?
I said we've got a good turnout.
Yes. Hello, sir.
I got a question for you.
Oh,
You got a minute? Looking at a contract that we let, and I noticed that
You ready, Georgiana? Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I'd like to call this meeting to order, and thank you, everyone, for being here. We have a full house this morning, which is great. First, please join me and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Morning, Ginger.
Public comment. Do we have any public comment this morning? No public comment.
how did that happen?
Next on the agenda is the Executive Director's Report. Good morning, Georgiana.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's good to see everyone this morning. As you know, this is the final week of the 2024 legislative session. It is officially complete. The House and the Senate passed the fiscal year 24-25 state budget of $117.46 billion. The governor has 15 days from the date he receives the budget to sign and exercise any line item vetoes that he feels is necessary. As far as local member projects, or what we sometimes we used to call earmarks, which are appropriations in the budget that are related to transportation. There were two that was on the list. One of them is the Ellis Road widening project. This is for pre-construction activities, specifically clearing and grubbing. It's for $5.7 million. And that's really to facilitate early utility relocation as well, which would hopefully line us up for construction in fiscal year 26. Keep in mind, we are still $46 million short for construction, but as we work with all of our stakeholders and our partners, we are going to do everything we can to make that schedule. The other appropriation was the Melbourne-Orlando International Airport Operations Center for $5 million. And so again, this is the fiscal year 24-25 budget, and these funds must be committed or encumbered within the state budget year. So in other words, by June of 2025. They don't have to be spent by then, but they do have to be encumbered on a contract. It appears that these appropriations were added to the Transportation Trust Fund from general fund. And that's important because, you know, when appropriations come directly out of the Transportation Trust Fund, that's not new money. You know, that all of that money is already on existing projects in the work program. But if the funds are coming out of general fund and incorporated into the Transportation Trust Fund, that is a good thing because that's new money. And that's the rules of the game when you go after an appropriation. So an important point there. The other thing I wanted to mention, Mark Reichert, the director of the MPOAC, is doing a preliminary summary of all of the transportation-related bills. And as soon as we get that, he was going to be working on that today, we will email that out to you. At the last meeting, we discussed specifically the broad transportation bills that was related to impacting MPOs and statewide MPO planning. We had a lot of discussion about that. On Friday, House Bill 1301, which was the FDOT's transportation bill, was amended with much of the language that was in those two bills that impacted the MPOs and the MPOAC, House Bill 7049 and Senate Bill 1032. However, the amended bill did not include any of the MPO and MPOAC language, which is a good thing. So, House Bill 7049, yes, and Senate Bill 1032 officially died on Friday. So that's good news. We don't know what will, hopefully this is not a trend for next legislative session, but I can tell you that a lot of people were working behind the scenes, working with the Senate to try and get the facts out on the table concerning MPOs and what great partners we are with FDOT, and that it is not, an accident that Florida has the best transportation system, really, in the country. So very good news, and we will be sending out a full summary to you as soon as we get that from Mark. So, Mr. Chair, that concludes my report.
Thanks, Georgiana, appreciate it.
Think
George,
Adam, you
Quick
had something?
question, if you don't mind. Georgette, you said that one of the items was 46 million short?
The Ellis Road widening is 46 million short for construction.
So my question is, are they going to hold up the entire project for that, or are they just going to go ahead and start without all that shortage?
Currently there's 30, I want to say over 32 million on the project. You cannot let a construction project without all of the funding in the DOT work program.
Well, why can't we do some of it?
It's just not how the process works.
So let me try to understand this. You're suggesting that if that entire project is shortfalls, it could not start, and then that money that we do already have allocated towards there would go somewhere else.
No, it would roll into the work program for the next year. We don't want that to happen. We need Ellis to go to construction in fiscal year 26. So that's what we are working with all of our stakeholders, and specifically the DOT, to come up with a funding strategy. In fact, we have an upcoming meeting that we're going to be discussing that with all the stakeholders. So we don't want it to roll. We won't lose the money.
Thank you. Just, you can understand my concern. Thank
Sure,
you.
absolutely.
any other questions or comments for Georgiana?
Yeah, Pete?
We used to get a package along with your report, and your package is missing this time.
Yes. It seems that this legislative session has really been in flux. Early on, we did get a bill tracker that, with links that you could go and click on. But hopefully we'll get a complete summary that we can send out to you ASAP, so you can have that.
I was thinking you might have went on vacation for a couple of weeks.
Come on.
No.
Don't say that.
Well, I'm just having fun with the lady. And for you, Adam, what you asked is, if I want a roofer and I tell a roofer, I got a couple $100, why don't you start my roof? As I get more money, I'll call you back.
Yeah, but if I've got half of the money, I'd
Well,
start.
she's planning. Planning is different than construction. I'm construction. If you ain't got the money, you don't see me in my crews.
Well, excuse me, I'm retired military.
All right.
Okay, anything else? All right, we'll move on to the consent agenda. This morning we have 2 items. The first one is the Technical and Citizens Advisory Committee meeting minutes from February 5th, 2024. The second item, item B, is fiscal year 2023, Community Transportation Corridor Evaluation. I'd look for a motion from the TAC for the consent agenda.
So move.
A motion by Jared. Thank you. Can I have a second, please?
Erica.
Second by Erica. Over to you, sir.
And from the CAC, do we have a motion from Henry Moran and a second from Bill Vollmer? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
From the TAC, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, we'll move on to our action items. We have 2 today. The first action item is the transmittal of draft fiscal year 25 through fiscal year 26 Unified Planning Work Program. Good morning, Laura.
Good morning. I'm Laura Carter, Assistant Director of Space Coast TPO. And this morning, I'm going to be presenting to you our Unified Planning Work Program. This is actually what you could consider the operating budget of the TPO and what manages and, funds the staff and the studies that the staff undertakes. So as I mentioned, the UPWP is a 2-year work program and is one of the required products that we must do along with our LRTP and TIP. It identifies our work products that we are going to accomplish over the next 2 years that support the strategic plan that is adopted by the board. The fiscal year that the UPWP runs on is July to June, so please keep that in mind. Excuse me. The UPWP is comprised of various tasks. These tasks identify work products that support the strategic plan, as I mentioned. So this year I did something a little bit different, and instead of presenting it by task, I'm going to present the activities that we'll be undertaking according to how we're going to support the strategic plan. Excuse me. The first one is leadership. This is really where a lot of the administrative activities occur, where we prepare the agenda packages that you have before you today. We deal with our budget. We do have 2 budgets. The UPWP is one of them. The other one, where we actually pay our bills out of, is called our operating budget. That one runs on an October to September timeframe, which does make it a little fun between 2 different types of fiscal years. But you'll see quarterly, we do provide reports of that to the governing board. We develop our strategic plan, legislative priorities. One of the things I would like to point out is every 4 years, we do have a federal certification. Annually, we are certified by the Florida Department of Transportation, but the federal one is every 4 years, and our next one will be in 2026, towards the end of this UPWP cycle, but we will be preparing for that prior to the end of this UPWP. Other activities are outreach. We have a lot of activities related to that. We are guided by a public participation plan that is reviewed and updated every 3 years. The next time that will be done will be next December in 2025. The other item I'd like to point out is the Agenda Center, where you go and get your agenda packages. So he's going to be utilizing a new module that's provided by Granicus. It's called PEAK. And the Agenda Center, sometime later this year, hopefully be reorganized and be easier to review and find historically all of our meetings and future meetings. Next, we have safety. Safety is supported by our Vision Zero Action Plan. This year in February, we just adopted a new updated action plan. Follow-up activities over the next 2 years will be looking at our high injury network identified in the Vision Zero Action Plan, and looking at those corridors and the contributing factors that are causing the crashes. From there, we would like to probably focus on possibly a lighting analysis, where lighting would be needed, and a speed management study. Other activities are our Walk to Bike school days, World Day of Remembrance, all of our outreach activities that we do. Next, linking our transportation and land use. This is where the majority of all of our master plans are created. We are currently undergoing a lot of planning activities that will be completed over the next 2 years. These include our transit development plan, the intermodal station feasibility study that has been moved up instead of next February. We are intending on having that completed this fall. Mobility on demand, the biggest one probably on this list is our every 5 years update of our long-range transportation plan. That will be before you next July for adoption. We will in May initiate a scope of services to conduct a corridor study along Dixon Boulevard and Cocoa. That will be completed next year. Others that will be occurring after July 1st, we'll be looking at the high injury network, as I mentioned, for Vision Zero and the safety, but also looking at our bike ped master plan and identifying all of the gaps where our sidewalks and bike lanes are missing, and pursuing a better program on where we can hit those smaller gaps, hopefully, and get some projects to make the connections. Also, we have our annual list of project priorities. This is where we also do the support for all of our planning studies, and then when they go into the different phases of PD&E, design, construction, we support all of those projects. One of the things I'll point out is the adoption towards the end there of the context classification and level of service methodology. The Florida Department of Transportation used generalized tables of service, level of services prior, based on different characteristics of roadways. What they adopted in the last year or so was context classification. Many of you, especially on the TAC, are probably familiar with those wordings. It's kind of like the graph on the bottom right. Depending on the land uses, there's a context to the roadway of how it functions. There are different speeds, level of services associated with those context classifications. We did go with the locals this past fall. We have context classifications identified for all of our functionally classified roadways, and we will now be pursuing assigning new level and updated level of service numbers to those. That will be done over this next summer, and we'll be presenting the methodology to you in the fall. Also, implementation of all of our master plans is included. One of the bigger ones that's incorporated to all of our studies now is when we adopted our resiliency master plan. We do have corridors that are identified as the highest vulnerability. One of the things we would like to pursue a follow-up from the master study is to look at those vulnerable corridors and identify what strategies would best be served to make them sustainable. Lastly, we have technology and data. Many of our studies and analysis are based on data. This is where our traffic count program is held, where we do modeling, implementation of our ITS master plan. One of the things that we hope to do when we fill our technician, our transportation analyst position that's we're reviewing right now, hopefully have additional staff members soon, is the development of a transportation improvement program tool that will help us do searches, develop the tip, and have it more user-friendly than what we've had in the past. The biggest item on here is the last item, construction of the traffic management center. That will hopefully be undertaken later this year with actual movement of dirt. Anticipate that being completed in 2026, and as we've mentioned prior meetings, the TPO staff offices will be moving to the new TMC. So how is all this funded? We do receive federal funds to conduct these studies and manage MPO TPOs. These are the revenue sources that we are receiving. The majority of it is in our planning funds. What they did a couple years ago is our Federal Transit Administration grant is now rolled into the planning funds, so it's one consolidated planning grant. We also utilize the TPO's SU projects to do all of our master planning and recurring programs such as our State of the System report and other analysis. Items that are one-time also include the one-time grants. We have the intermodal station feasibility study. We received the FDOT intermodal grant funds to conduct that. That will be completed later this year, as I mentioned, in September. We also just recently received Sun Trail funding to conduct the North Merritt Island Pioneer Trail. Those are not the total amount of funds. That's my crystal ball estimate of what we need starting July 1st to complete them. The intermodal station was a total of about $330,000, and the North Merritt Island Pioneer Trail is about $300,000 also. But these are budgets for just the next 2 years. Transportation disadvantage is pass-through funds that we provide through to the Space Coast Area Transit. They use those funds to help administer the Transportation Disadvantaged Local Coordinating Board, the TDLCB. Brevard County, we do have an interlocal agreement with them for support funds for services we provide them. The $12,000 you see listed there, excuse me, does go directly towards the support of collecting traffic counts throughout the county. That program ranges anywhere from $60,000 to $75,000 a year. That's the portion that the Brevard County provides. That's the revenue side. This is the expenditure side, how it is broken up. Salary and benefits obviously is at the top, funds the TPO staff. The second largest one is consultants, where we utilize consultant services to conduct many of our master plans and planning studies. We have multiple contracts. Many of them are required to have. Obviously, we need IT. We pay rent. We utilize county services where it best meets our needs, such as purchasing department, their finance department to pay our bills and manage our budgets. We have travel, audit, operating. Operating is all of our office supplies. You do see in the second year a little bit more funds. When we move, we're going to need new furniture, new monitors. Our meeting room will be there. All the AV equipment's going to need to be purchased. Not 100% sure at this time what is going to be included in the construction documents, but we're going to have to plan for that move. And nothing against myself, but I don't plan on picking up and packing and moving it myself. So we'll be hiring movers to help us. The schedule is, the draft is due out this Friday, March 15th. Requires a 30-day review period. So that would close on April 15th, and the MPO Governing Board will be adopting the final in May. This is requirement schedule in order for the FDOT to approve it and have it effective July 1st of this year. With that, what we're asking is just permission to transmit the draft document to all the reviewing agencies and to post it on our website and to receive any comments back from our members and the public. And I'll be happy to answer any questions. I know I went over that pretty quickly.
Okay, any questions for Laura? Yeah, Adam.
Intermodal. I noticed that some of the information that was up there on the projector there was not in our package. Can you talk to us a little bit about the intermodal portion, 85,000?
That is the part that's for the intermodal station feasibility study that I mentioned that we received a grant from the Florida Department of Transportation's intermodal grant funds. That is to study the analysis and the need for a Brightline passenger rail station located in Cocoa.
Thank you. That's what I thought. Thank you.
Yeah, any other questions for Laura? Yeah, Pete.
You mentioned a speed management study, and I think that's more than a speed sign that says reduce speed ahead. So what's the thinking on that?
The details of that I would work out with Shelby and also with the consultant. This is something that would identify along a corridor if speed is an issue, what solutions are there? Bulb outs? Is it not just a sign? What kind of engineering design mechanisms can we implement to help slow down speeds? And of course, there's unpopular items, speed humps, roundabouts, those all slow down speed. But that would be analyzed on a case-by-case basis, and the details would be brought forward when we get the scope.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking, that traffic calming, and Lauren brought that to my attention a few years ago. She said we can't enforce the speed limits that we have on the books now, so we have to take a different type of thinking, and that's what you're saying, is that the different type of thinking, the famous speed tables that the city, Cocoa Beach doesn't like but work, the roundabouts that are hated in Brevard County, but they work, all that good kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Guy.
Just a cautionary note, the technology that's being developed that will affect this tip tool that you're looking at, that's around searching and decision support, is evolving at an unbelievably breathtaking pace. So to develop a system, I would highly recommend making sure somebody at that level is involved. You may hear terms like AI. AI is an inaccurate term, but it does significantly affect what you're talking about there, and you could be easily left in the wind repeatedly spending money to get something better and better when you could probably get it quickly if you involve the right people. I would recommend maybe somebody at the collegiate level.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm new at this, first time here. In our town, Indian Harbor City, they're trying to push slowing the speed limit by crunching the lanes and then putting 5-foot bicycle lanes on each side. And we're supposed to allow trucks to come through there. I think of the box trucks. The semis allow just a hair over 1 foot on each side. That doesn't count the mirrors. And so that's one of the slowing things they've done, even though our police department is superb at enforcing the speed limit. And we asked, drop us from 40 to 35 so we're consistent with the surrounding roads, including A1A in our town. And they refused to do that. So I find that very odd that they wouldn't do the most common thing, which is reduce the speed limit. Multiple bicyclists that I've spoken with, one gentleman in particular owns 10 bicycles, will not ride on the road. And he's smart, I believe. He likes to be on the sidewalk. And we'd like to see wider sidewalks, you know, and the ADA improvements are great, but trying to get us out of our cars and onto bicycles by forcing that issue isn't good.
Understood.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, Eric?
Just to clarify in the 85,000 for the intermodal study, what's the difference between that and what we learned about last month, that's several $1 million involving the intermodal project that's more like 2027? Can you explain the difference between the small sum of money and the larger sum that's a couple years later?
So the number you're seeing up there is for the TPO staff to utilize their consultants to conduct a study for a Brightline station in the Cocoa area. And that entails looking at various data sources, lots of coordination with the city of Cocoa and Brightline and other entities to really kind of create an action plan. It's the planning phase that you're familiar with on all other studies. It's the first phase that we are working on after we had the Regional Intermodal Connections Committee, where we had leaders all put together last year, have the conversations, what do we need to do? We needed to come up with a plan and an implementation plan. That's what this study is doing. The $85,000 is what's left of the $300,000 that we started with last year. I guess it was a year ago we started with. So at the end of this study, we will have hopefully an action plan, an implementation plan that identifies this is what it's going to look like. These are the different elements that need to be implemented, and hopefully here's the different grant opportunities we have to help fund that. Because to actually have a station built, we've all heard different numbers out there, 100 million, 50 million. What that station footprint is needs to be determined with a coordinated effort. And so those amounts, hopefully this plan at the end of it will somewhat identify what's needed. But this is the planning phase. That's what you're seeing up on the board. Does that answer your question?
Well, sort of, but there was another sum of money that was on the documents from last year. George.
That's, I think you're talking about the 15 million or so?
Yes, that was it.
That's in our transportation improvement program. Those are the funds that the TPO has set aside for construction.
Okay.
So that's a whole different, well, it's the same source actually of money in a way, but it's a different pot of money that the TPO has identified to help support get a station constructed. So it is a little bit different. This is the planning side. That's 3 phases away in the construction side.
Ginger?
Is it possible for me to get a copy of your presentation since it wasn't included in the packet?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I finished it on Friday, so.
Some of the terminologies are,
Yeah, there might be a little bit of tweaking difference between the presentation and what's in your agenda package, because your agenda package is based on the task approach. I thought a presentation would be better supporting the emphasis areas of the strategic plan instead.
yes.
So, yes, we'll have that available.
Any other discussion? Okay, if not, I'd look for a motion from the TAC to approve the Unified Planning Work Program. Motion by Frank. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Jared. Over to you, sir.
And from the CAC, do we have a motion, please?
Motion to approve. Adam Kohler.
Motion from
Mr.
Adam. We have a second. Second from Arlen. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
And from the TAC, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next is our second item, our second action item. It's Resolution 24-16, fiscal year 24 through 28, the Transportation Improvement Program Amendment.
This is mine, Mr. Chair. This is a housekeeping item. This is amending our Transportation Improvement Program to adjust funding for two transit projects. This is 5310 program. This is funds that goes to our local transit provider, Space Coast Area Transit, for them to use for capital purchases such as buses and other equipment. So there's two projects here. They are both for fiscal year 2024, and they total $516,612. Again, I think this is an adjustment of funding for two projects that are already included in our Transportation Improvement Program. And we are asking for approval of the TIP.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, if not, from the TAC, I'd look for a motion, please. Motion from Frank, second by Erica.
And from the CAC, do we have a motion, please? Motion from Bill Vollmer, and we have a second. Second from Gil. If there's no discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
From the TAC, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries unanimously. All right, next up in our agenda today is presentations. We actually have two presentations. The first one is Target Zero presentation by Melissa Wandall.
As Melissa comes up, I just want to say how honored we are to have Melissa present to us today. And for some of the newer members, back in 2018, 2019, when we really brought everyone together to discuss Vision Zero, and we held our huge symposium. Melissa was the guest speaker, and let me tell you, she spoke on her mission and her why, and it really made a huge impact on everyone that was in the room, all of our local governments, partners, FDOT, and it really helped us. She was instrumental on setting up our success for our Vision Zero program, so we're so excited to have her back here. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Georgiana. That was quite a welcome, so thank you so much, and I am so grateful to be here, and thank you for allowing me to be here today. I am Melissa Wandall, and I'm a Target Zero ambassador for the state, and I'm president of the National Coalition for Safer Road, an advocate, a philanthropist, and a national speaker. And I've been gifted the opportunity today to showcase how Target Zero and Vision Zero work together to achieve zero traffic-related injuries and fatalities on Florida roadways. We have two handouts in front of you, one on Target Zero and one on Vision Zero, so you'll be able to take a gander at those. Keep those handouts as a, throughout the presentation, something you can look back on or take back with you as well, because they're great pieces that just give the bones of what this presentation is about. My contact information is included as well. And don't hesitate to reach out to me in the days ahead. If you think of something or you have some kind of a question or you didn't think about it today, I'd love to answer any questions. My information is on my card. And here's the thing too, after my presentation today, if there's something that I cannot answer, or you ask me something today, I promise you I will get the answer and I will get back in touch with you. Later in the presentation, you will learn why I was selected to speak on this topic and how one traffic crash affected my life and the lives of others, and why I will always advocate to eliminate serious injuries and fatalities on our roadways nationally, but especially here in Florida, because we can achieve the goal of zero. So first, by honest show of hands, how many of you are familiar with Florida's Target Zero initiative? Okay, a few. That's good. Okay, but it's still good that there's a few of you that are not, right? And by show of hands, how many of you are familiar with the Global Vision Zero initiative? Okay, very good, very good. So finally, by show of hands, one more, how many understand how these two initiatives work tandem to achieve zero-related fatalities and serious injuries on Florida roadways? Okay, a sprinkle, that's great. So, and if you didn't raise your hand on this one, my hope is that by the end of the presentation that you'll be able to raise your hands. So, what is Vision Zero? Let's start by first defining Vision Zero and Target Zero independently. So Vision Zero is a global movement to eliminate all traffic fatalities and severe injuries while increasing safe, healthy, equitable mobility for all. Vision Zero starts with the ethical belief that everyone has the right to move safely within their communities. System designers and policymakers share the responsibility to ensure safe systems for all travel. Vision Zero holds that serious injury and fatalities are preventable and focuses on making the roadway and surrounding environment as safe as possible. This includes the built environment, policies, and technologies that mitigate serious consequences of mistakes made by our road users. So what is Target Zero? Target Zero is Florida's data-driven, multifaceted initiative to eliminate all traffic fatalities and severe injuries across our state's transportation system. Target Zero believes that all serious injuries and fatalities on Florida roadways are preventable. Target Zero addresses Florida's unique transportation issues by incorporating evidence-based strategies demonstrated to generate solutions. Target Zero aligns Florida's resources and establishes actions for all state safety partners to improve how our citizens connect, interact, plan, design, operate, and maintain their transportation systems. Target Zero builds on the Vision Zero belief by focusing on influencing dangerous driving behaviors before serious injuries and fatal crashes occur on our Florida roadways. Target Zero is a collaborative effort. Floridians, we must all work together to achieve zero. So how are Target Zero and Vision Zero similar? The Target Zero and Vision Zero initiatives are very similar. Let's review how these two are alike. The similarities. We will spend a little bit of time on how Target Zero and Vision Zero are the same. Target Zero and Vision Zero both share the overreaching goal of eliminating all traffic-related fatalities and injuries. To achieve this goal, they both take on a holistic approach. Vision Zero fuses engineering, education, enforcement, and evaluation together to create a comprehensive model. And Target Zero promotes a multifaceted, data-driven initiative combining features from Florida Strategic's Highway Safety Plan, FDOT's Design Manual, Traffic Engineering Manual, and Speed Zone Manual. Target Zero also integrates research regarding post-crash care and data from Florida's SunTrax facility. Both Target Zero and Vision Zero rely on data-driven strategies, using crash data and analysis to identify high-risk areas, patterns, and contributing factors to prioritize interventions and create calls to actions. Both initiatives involve advocating for and implementing policy changes and infrastructure improvements to enhance roadway safety. These could include measures like improved signage, crosswalks, traffic calming measures, alongside implementing automated enforcement. Both Target Zero and Vision Zero incorporate awareness campaigns and educational programs to engage the community in promoting safe driving habits and increasing awareness about the importance of road safety. Currently, Target Zero has campaigns focusing specifically on speeding, distraction, and aggression, targeting young males aged 18 to 24 in 5 Florida priority districts. The 5 Florida priority districts are District 1, which is Polk, Manatee, and Sarasota counties, District 4, which is St. Lucie, Palm Beach, and Broward County, your own District 5, Brevard, Lake, Marion, Orange, Osceola, Seminole, and Volusia counties, District 6, Miami-Dade County, District 7, Citrus, Hernando, Hillsborough, Pasco, and Pinellas counties. Target Zero and Vision Zero collaborate and coordinate among various stakeholders, including government agencies, law enforcement, community organizations, advocates, local businesses, and the public. Both Target Zero and Vision Zero recognize that achieving the goal of zero cannot be done alone. Everyone must work together. Target Zero and Vision Zero share many of the same core elements, and both initiatives require a shift in how communities foster their actions, decisions, and attitudes regarding safe mobility. So how can Florida embrace these two initiatives? Exactly how does Target Zero build on Vision Zero principles? Target Zero expands on the global framework of Vision Zero by taking Florida's safety programs and safety campaigns one step further beyond Florida's law. Target Zero aims to uncover details specific to Florida's transportation system and its users to make educated, targeted improvements. Building on the Target Zero and Vision Zero shared goal of achieving zero traffic fatalities and serious injuries, Target Zero develops an action plan, collects and analyzes data, and educates and engages the community while simultaneously investing in infrastructure. To identify dangerous driving behavior, Target Zero utilizes Florida's crash and citation data to identify risky behavior and pinpoint targeted audiences. Target Zero employs focus groups with these audiences to further understand why these behaviors are occurring within our state. And it utilizes feedback to create impactful messages to influence safe driving behaviors. The goal of Target Zero is to change identified dangerous driver behaviors before crashes with serious injuries and fatalities occur in the state of Florida. Next, Target Zero localizes its messages and approach to help address precursor behaviors that lead to dangerous driving. This allows for targeted intervention, specific calls to action, and aimed resources and allocations. The Target Zero initiative enables a coordinated effort among Florida state agencies, local government, and community stakeholders to address road safety. This statewide collaboration and coordination allow Florida's safety programs and campaigns to be shared within education, public awareness, and community engagement arenas. Florida can utilize the larger picture to invest in infrastructure and policy change, enhanced enforcement, and intelligent evaluation. Here you can see Target Zero's current driver behaviors. Target's current driver behaviors. The initiative aims to eliminate the reason behind the driver behaviors, including the call to action for each. Florida's Target Zero initiative builds on Vision Zero fundamentals to reduce roadway tragedy in our state. We must all work together towards zero to promote safety on our Florida streets. Every Floridian has a responsibility to do their part to ensure safe, healthy, and equity mobility for all. You can participate in Florida's network of resources and information for sharing among Target Zero community partners. So how can you further Target Zero initiative? You can join one of Florida's Target Safety Coalitions, or access and disperse TV video, audio, and social media content to support community outreach and engagement. You can also get connected to the Safe Systems Approach resources. All you need to do is start here at targetzeroflorida.com. So how do I make impact? How do I support Target Zero? I'm up here talking about it, but how do I do it? Several years ago, I formed my own company, M3 Motivational Concept, so I could educate, encourage, and empower individuals and organizations for greater impact. I travel the United States and abroad, sharing my personal stories so others can utilize my forward momentum to affect positive change in their own lives. I've always been an advocate, and establishing M3 created new opportunity to aid others as they strive towards their goals. So my very personal story, my mission, my legacy, our legacy. On October 24th of 2003, my husband of 1 year and 5 days left our house to go to dinner, and he never came back home. He was a passenger in my brother's vehicle and was killed by another motorist who ran a red light just 2 weeks before our first daughter was born. My brother was also in that crash, and he remains emotionally and physically debilitated to this day. When crashes occur, it can be tough for many different reasons, but when there is death and serious injury, the downward spiral of the domino effect is real. I could not just sit with this crash. I needed to act positively in my grief and be a part of the safety solution moving forward. I investigated solutions that would aid and educate Florida's motoring public. I started researching red light safety cameras, how they work, why they work. Why did they work in some states? Why did they not work in another state? Was it a viable option? I reached out to traffic camera companies to get firsthand knowledge on their value. And then I reached out to policymakers, law enforcement, my chamber, civic groups, to build a team to see if we could craft a bill in the state of Florida that our policymakers would pass to reduce the risk of these crashes occurring at Florida intersections. After 5.5 years of education, advocacy, and crafting the right language, the policymakers passed the Mark Wandall Traffic Safety Act. The bill, which passed May 13, 2010, allows for the red light safety cameras at the most dangerous intersections in our state. Roadway tragedy does not have to happen, and automated enforcement is a big part of that safety solution. This is truly how I became established as an advocate. My husband's death and my brother's diminished quality of life as a crash survivor. The advocacy work led me to the next chapter, becoming president of the National Coalition for Safer Roads. The National Coalition for Safer Roads, our mission is to connect and empower survivor advocates of traffic-related tragedies, the tools and resources needed to end road violence in their own communities. Much like the Target Zero initiative focuses on data-driven strategies, public awareness and education, community engagement, coordination, and collaboration, NCSR brings together policymakers, community leaders, and concerned citizens in support of life-saving technologies, advocating for their use in cities and communities across our nation. NCSR also humanizes data. By sharing victim and survivor stories, it demonstrates the impact of unsafe driving, attaching real faces of real victims to the research results. One of the ways I've turned statistics and data into the real life faces of our loved ones is by creating the website Driving Down Heartache, which showcases real life stories memorializing those who have died or honoring those who have been seriously injured in roadway tragedies right here in Florida. The purpose of this website is twofold. It serves as a peaceful space to remember, heal, and support one another, while also encouraging personal accountability for all road users. Anyone affected in the state of Florida, whether it's been through a serious injury and they've survived, or a crash and they want to memorialize a loved one, can submit their story on the drivingdownheartache.org, and it comes right to me. And I've also helped people craft their stories too. Sometimes people have a little bit of a hard time, and it comes right to me, and I can help them craft it. Remember our daughter, Madison Grace? She too was a victim of that crash, what happened on October 24th of 2003. She never got to meet her dad. Mark was so excited to become a dad, and the ways his absences have affected Madison, they're too numerous to even talk about here. Madison still struggles today to define who she is, not knowing who the other half of her originated from. Throughout my advocacy efforts, our daughter was by my side. My goal was to be certain she felt empowered. I wanted to show her amidst adversity, we can all do hard things. With Madison in mind, shortly after Mark's death, I started a nonprofit in my husband's name, the Mark Wandall Foundation. Our nonprofit resources, aids, and uplifts children in grief who experience the death of a parent, sibling, or guardian. Our programming is donor-funded and free of cost to all of the youths and families we serve right here in the state of Florida. We offer equine-assisted learning, we offer a 3-day bereavement camp, a scholarship program, and quarterly reconnects. For the past 20 years, I have watched many of our youth grow within our foundation, transitioning from confused to capable, and from lost to leaders. Today, I'm also a Target Zero and Vision Zero ambassador, working to implement both initiatives in my state and nationwide. Throughout my advocacy work with Target Zero and Vision Zero initiatives, I've learned that each rely on solidarity, communication, cooperation, and coordination. Whether you are an engineer, a policymaker, representative from a government agency, law enforcement, community organization, local business, or a member of the public, we are all advocates for Florida's Target Zero initiative. We cannot achieve zero alone. As a united group of Florida advocates aiming to zero deaths and serious injuries on our roadways, we are educated on the tenets of Target Zero. We are making our transportation system safe, healthy, and equitable for all. Advocates collectively do this by humanizing the issue, supporting victims, creating empathy, raising awareness, motivating action, building connections, supporting additional advocacy efforts, inspiring change, fostering dialogue, and reducing stigma. Sharing best practices, lessons learned, and successful interventions in the realms of road safety ensure that we all return home at the end of the day, and there's nothing more important than that, is our families and our friends and our colleagues returning home at the end of the day. Adopting both Vision Zero and Target Zero initiatives safeguard you and your community. Remember, Target Zero aims to uncover details specific to Florida's transportation system and its users and make educated, targeted improvements. Every Floridian can participate because we are all advocates of Florida's Target Zero initiative. We cannot achieve zero alone. I know in the world of traffic safety programs, in this world of traffic safety, programs and initiatives can overlap. But I am encouraged daily by the good work we are all doing here in the state of Florida to keep our citizens safe on our roadways. I just am so grateful for your time today. You are appreciated, and I am truly, truly grateful to be here and to be able to share this with each and every one of you. So there's one more big test. By show of hands, how many of you understand how these two initiatives work together to achieve 0 traffic fatalities and 0 injuries on Florida roadways? Wonderful. Very good. So, and remember, if anyone has any questions they don't want to ask now, they want to ask after, or they think about it when they get back to their office today, you have my contact information. I'm happy if you reach out to me. If I can't get you the answer, if I can't answer something, I will get you the answer. As I said throughout this whole presentation, because we all need to do this together. So thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Melissa, and for all the important work you do for our state and country. Okay. Next, we're going to have another presentation. It's on emerging trends in transportation by Gil Rameriz. Morning, Gil.
Good morning. All right, I've got 25 minutes worth of presentation in 20 minutes, so I'm going to go very, very fast. Please hold your questions. I'm Gil Rameriz. I'm your City of West Melbourne representative on the CAC. I'm a traffic engineer by training, about 20 years of experience, former Brevard County Traffic Operations Manager, and safety is a huge part of my mission in life. So let's go ahead and roll right into it. Now, we just had a great presentation on Target Zero. So that's fantastic because this is going to tie in very much with that. One thing that I really want to mention in regards to Vision Zero and Target Zero is a key point on TPO's website, and it says Vision Zero requires a fundamental change in the way we think about traffic safety and planning, and that is going to be underpinning many of the technologies that I'm going to highlight. So I'm going to talk about how transportation is being electrified, analyzed, connected, automated, and advanced. Let's talk about electrification. All right, so what's the current state? It's basically a tale of two cities. There's two different groups that are talking about electrification, the yays and the nays. If you talk to the yays, they tell you, oh, look, we've got these fantastic growth, we've got these fantastic sales increasing every year over year, all these things. And the nays are telling you, well, things like Ford and GM just cut their production because they don't have the uptake that they were hoping for. A lot of headwinds in regards to charging infrastructure that's needed, and of course the conversation we have had many times in regards to how are we resolving the issues with the Highway Trust Fund and the gas taxes. So let's talk a little bit about the realities of the conversation. The truth is that sales of EV vehicles are increasing, they are just going slowly, right? We were expecting this exponential curve, but it's not. It's a straight line, but it isn't expected to increase in rate over time because, as you can see on this graph, we're part of a global initiative to electrify our transportation. China is leading the charge. Europe is second in place, and we are third. And they're pushing hard to bring their systems online. Does it make sense for you and I to electrify? I recently purchased a 2023 Kia EV6, a full battery EV, and I ran the numbers for 2 months. And this is what I found. If I use my EV, I save about $1,000, maybe $1,100 a year in fuel costs. So does it make sense? It does, but if you have a garage, if you own a home and you can get FP&L to install one of their chargers in your house, you can get free charging nights and weekends for a base price of $31 a month. I can drive as much as I want, right? So it makes it kind of difficult to say that there's not a business case for it. But what's the problem? Something that EV owners call range anxiety. That's when you're going to go to do a long trip and you know that you're going to have to charge, but you know that the charge infrastructure may not necessarily be there. How are we resolving the problem? Well, federal government, through the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, released $1.2 trillion in funding. Part of that was the development of the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Program, $7.5 billion in formula and discretionary spending specifically to expand the charging network. Now that money's coming down to Florida through the EV Charging Infrastructure Program that they began in July of 2021. So how's it going? As you can see here, there's a map of current locations of charging stations. In Florida, through this program and through utilities like FP&L, because they own many of those little dots on the map, they're expanding the network on their own. Plus, of course, many EV manufacturers are also working on their own to expand their networks. So not only are they expanding and physically building them, we're finally to the point where the EV manufacturers are saying maybe we should let each other charge at the same ports. So folks like Tesla are opening their networks to everyone else. So hopefully by the end of the year, my little Kia will be able to charge at a Tesla station. So DOT's program approach, there's an entire set of strings attached to the federal money, things like they want primarily to focus on things like the highway system. They want to have charging stations no more than 50 miles apart. They're targeting folks, special communities and things where they know that we definitely have not had the private attention. We're trying to get the public money into those locations. But the future of electrification is solid-state battery technology. Now, there are many different manufacturers that are working on this, but the first three there that I listed are folks who are currently reporting that they have a solid-state battery in the works that is going to go somewhere between 600 and 900 miles with 10-minute charge. Do we all need that much? No. But if you can go 900 miles on 10 minutes, how far do you have to go with a battery that can charge in 5, right? Now we're talking, it's getting a real good use case, right? We're starting to really make sense and catch up to ICE vehicles. That doesn't resolve the issues with funding transportation. But since 2016, Federal Highway has been working on this very issue. We haven't been ignoring it. We're just trying to do our very best to make sure that whatever comes next makes a lot of sense. And there's several different systems that are being demoed. If you look at the map on the left, this is actually from Federal Highway, and it describes consortiums of states who are doing research. We're part of the Eastern Coalition, and in each case, we're looking at user-based alternative revenue mechanisms, which basically means you pay by the mile. Okay, now how do you collect that information? What are the mechanisms needed? Lots of different technologies are being piloted right now. Each one of those little dots is a pilot, and so we're learning. We're trying to get that, get ahead of it and make sure that when we finally have an answer, it's an answer that makes sense. We also have 33 states that have already implemented EV registration fees to cover the cost now, including some that are doing weight-based. All right, shifting gears into analysis. Now, this is where the safety component really starts coming into play. Intelligent transportation systems are the technologies that are outlined in orange. They're part of cooperative automated transportation, which of course means connecting your vehicles and automating your vehicles into one cohesive network. So let's talk about ITS for a minute. What ITS is data collection, right? We instrument our roads, we figure out the kind of cars, how fast they're going, how many there are, where they're going, through the use of these technologies. We take all that information, and with recent developments in what we call big data, we can take a bunch of different kinds of information, squish them together into what they call data fusion, and generate maps that we can use in order to assess trends, right? On the left there, you see a graph. The line in black, if you can see that, would be like the weekly average, let's say. And where you see those giant spikes, that means that volumes are going above the predicted, which then we can say, well, we know volumes are going up. That always results in congestion. So the map on the right is reflecting the fact that at certain times of day, we're getting too many vehicles on those roads and we're generating congestion. What do we do with that data? We push it out to you as best we can, right? We've all seen DMS signs that give us travel times. There's not some poor schmuck at the TMC doing a bunch of hand calculations. That's all automated, right? These systems are helping to speed up the delivery of that data to you. We're using machine vision to be able to tell truck drivers who are tired and by law have to take a break where they can stop and get a parking spot. We're telling you where those traffic slowdowns are. we're also instantly starting to be able to detect when incidents are happening out on the roads, like these wrong-way detection systems. When we see a car driving the wrong way on an on-ramp or an off-ramp, we can pump that information straight to the DMS and tell the oncoming drivers that there's somebody traveling the wrong way on our freeway, right? And then lastly, newer technology, we're starting to be able to track the motion of vehicles, pedestrians, and bicyclists at our intersections, finding things like conflict points, which leads me to the next big innovation, which is called near-miss detection. We start tracking where all these vehicles are going, where all the pedestrians are. So let's take, for example, on the bottom left corner, there's a car making that right. Has anyone ever experienced that? You're crossing and all of a sudden there's a pedestrian in the way? Well, these systems are now tracking through machine vision when those paths are getting ready to cross, and it sends an alert. Somebody at the TMC can get flagged and know that there was a near-miss incident. Right now, we're talking about using that as an alert to cut our response times roughly in half to an incident that may be occurring at a freeway, okay? Georgia DOT has already deployed a similar system. They're seeing great benefits from it. But another thing that's coming out in Florida here very recently is that we're trying to take the information from these incidents, put them on a GIS map of the intersection, map them all together, which means that for the first time in the history of traffic engineering, we're going to know where our hotspots might be in the future, because we can see near miss after near miss after near miss at the same location. Maybe we should handle it before we have a crash, before there's a fatality. This is an exciting time for traffic engineering. So let's move on to connected vehicle technology. Connected vehicle technology basically means you take a radio, you put it in the car, and then you have the ability to communicate with a bunch of stuff, other cars, infrastructure like traffic signals, even your home, yourself, pedestrians, bicyclists. If it has a means of communication, we can talk to it, right? What can we do with it? Things like crash avoidance. If two cars are both connected to the same network and they're talking to each other, we can tell by speed and direction whether they might crash in the very near future and give direction to those vehicles to prevent the crashes. We can do things like queue detection. Anyone ever been going over a highway and all of a sudden you get to the crest and there's a car stopped in front of you? Yeah. Well, these things are going to be able to communicate to each other and say, above this crest, there's a queue. You need to slow down well in advance, right? Emergency alerts for emergency vehicles, being able to do cooperative adaptive cruise control. So we get the cars really close together, but they're talking to each other so fast that if the car in the front detects a problem, all of them work together as if they were one big train, right? Operational benefits. Obviously, when you're working in things like platoons and you can keep these cars squished together, you can do things like traffic flow optimization, which means that you slow them down so that they get to the traffic signal on green. If you can do that, you're minimizing stops, which means you're wasting less gas, right? You can also have predictive maintenance. My EV3 has connected vehicle technology. It tells me when my next maintenance is, when my tires might be low, sends alert to my phone, right? So that I don't break down on the side of the road. Transit integration, being able to work with transit to give them the ability to stay on time, getting out of their way, working together, right? And performance measurement. Again, for the first time in the history of traffic engineering, we're going to be able to get data straight from the car about how they're being used to be able to optimize our systems to keep you safer. All right, automation, autonomous vehicle technology. Now we're really pushing the limits. So there's 5 different levels of automation according to the Society of Automotive Engineers, Automotive Software Engineers. 0 is basically the car has sensors and it dings at you, but it does nothing else. Driver assistance means if you're getting ready to hit something or back into something, it actually applies the brakes for you. Level 2 would be it can center itself in a lane, and it can also, or it can do conditional cruise control. And then on and on and on down. High automation would be a robo-taxi with somebody at a TMC who can take over maintenance or driving if it encounters a problem, all the way through full, which means completely hands-off. Humans are no longer in the loop. All right, so safety benefits just of 0 and 1, advanced driver assistance systems, show these percentages in improvement. If you have these systems, you are this percentage likely to be involved in a crash of that type. Now, why is it not a nationwide number? Because it's all about market penetration. If you don't have the technology, it does nothing for you. If every car in the network had this technology, these would be the across-the-board reductions that you would get. And that's just level 0 and 1, right? Now, Waymo, who is an autonomous vehicle robotaxi company, they have reported for the first time ever their crash statistics, and their robotaxi fleet is 57% less likely to be involved in a crash in the same location for the same vehicle miles traveled than a human driver. And of those crashes, they have an 85% less injury rate for any vehicle involved in that crash, not just the robotaxi. So they're being loaded with such good crash mitigation measures and avoidance measures that they're able to reduce the injury rate for the other parties involved. What is being projected? And by the way, if you guys see the little tiny rectangular things that are supposed to look like a newspaper, if you guys click on those on the PDF, it will take you to the articles that I have pulled this information from, so you don't have to take my word for it. Level 0 and 1, we're predicting 23 and 40% reductions in crashes. Level 2 and 3, 43 to 64%, and 4 and 5, 76 to 94% reduction in crashes if we go fully autonomous. Okay, so I already talked about no total crashes. All right. Again, we have to have market penetration. It's not enough for everyone to have it. We have to make sure the entire network has the technology in order to see that as a across-the-board benefit for everyone. All right, operational benefits. Obviously, increased efficiency, right? These things will be able to know exactly where every other robotaxi is, where everyone is on the network. They'll be talking together. We'll be able to move a lot more people at the same time. Accessibility for all. And I mean in two different demographics. One is obviously the mobility impaired. If they don't have to drive, you don't have to own your own conversion van or call, for a ride, you can get around much better. But also, because these systems, when they go autonomous, the vision is to do mobility as a service. We would pay a monthly fee to have access to one of these things, pick us up whenever we want, drop us off whenever we want, and it goes and services the next person. That means you don't have to pay for a car to sit at your job for 8 or 9 hours a day doing nothing, right? It's constantly moving. It's constantly working, and it's being maintained as part of a very large fleet of vehicles that are designed not for looks, not for fancy, but to be very efficient and very safe, because that's how they make money, right? Keeping you safe and moving is how they make money. So they're going to find the best way to do that, the most efficient way to do that. And increase productivity. So accessibility, before I move on, again, the cost of ownership is very high. So this would mean that folks who currently have a hard time owning a vehicle and maintaining a vehicle will no longer be having to face that problem. Increased productivity. If I don't have to drive the car, I can be reading, I can be sleeping, I can be getting ready for work, I can be on YouTube, whatever it is you guys want to do. You're no longer going to be tagged by having to handle the driving task. That's more time that you have. And lower operational costs. Obviously, as a fleet, you get benefits of scale, right? Efficiencies of scale. So how's it going? Well, last year, Beep announced that they were partnering with JTA and Jacksonville to start an autonomous robotaxi fleet for them. Beep, that's Beep in Orlando, in downtown Orlando, has announced that they've got a fleet going on now. Waymo is starting to do a study to do a deployment in Miami. And Altamont Springs, again, I think that was 2023. And this is just a small section of recent articles that have come out. These guys have been operating in San Francisco and Phoenix for years. Okay, this is nothing new. This is a map of Florida DOT involved ITS connected and autonomous projects in the state. Again, it's not comprehensive, but there's a lot going on. Okay, all kinds of different initiatives are going on right now. This doesn't include folks like Kodiak, who's a semi-tractor trailer company, uses 100% autonomous fleet, and is driving in Florida right now, and you guys didn't even know about it. All right, advanced air mobility. Flying cars, right? Okay, so advanced air mobility encompasses 5 different technologies. Urban air mobility, that means within a city. Regional air mobility, which means city to city and anywhere in between. Public services, right? Being able to drop down on a crash, pick up the injured and take them directly to the hospital without ever having to worry about a road. Cargo transport, last mile delivery, right? And private recreation. Federal government moved the Advanced Air Mobility Coordination and Leadership Act in 2022, creating or forcing DOT to create an interagency working group to develop the national strategy, which then fed down to the FDOT Aviation Office to develop the AAM roadmap, standards, gap analysis, and they generated their final report August of last year. Some benefits. First thing, obviously, we're reducing automobile trips, which means reduce congestion, which means reduce crashes, right? Enhanced safety. These are not going to be driven by humans for the most part. They will in the beginning, but they're going to be pilots who have been through all the same rigorous training that all their other commercial pilots have to go through. Eventually, they will probably all be autonomous, but there are a lot of companies that are going autonomous right out of the gate. So again, enhanced safety, improved connectivity. When we start being able to get from here to Orlando in 20, 30 minutes, that's going to make some changes in the way that the economy works, right? We're going to be able to help those folks who are mobility impaired to get a lot further than they can today, right? We're going to be able to put this technology in the hands of folks who don't necessarily have the means to own an airplane because they're going to be priced at an Uber, right? That's the goal is to get this down to the level that you and I can afford to take a trip on one of these. So we're improving accessibility. They're designed to be alternative fuel vehicles, primarily electric. Most of them are electric right now. So through evolution of the manufacturing chain, we're going to be able to eliminate most, if not all, of the pollution associated with these systems. And economic growth. Imagine what we can do if we can get from here to Orlando in 20, 30 minutes, right? So the challenges, they have to land somewhere. So we need vertiports. So what's been going on, Federal Aviation Administration has vertiport design standards recently developed. We also have the AIM Act, $25 million in federal grants to 4 groups just like this TPO to plan for the location of future vertiports. It's currently in the Senate. We're hoping it gets approved very, very soon. FAA is revamping the way that they do their certifications. As of last Thursday, FAA released their latest round of requirements for final approval for one of the manufacturers already. We're very, very close for getting them ready to fly. And air traffic integration. Obviously, this is not going to be sharing space with your jumbo jets and your commercial flyers. This is a completely different system. So it's not going to be the same thing, but they still need to be maintained. Again, safety first, right baked into the system from the beginning. How's it going? Well, we're behind the 8 ball a bit. China has already had their first autonomous commercial flight on an AAM vehicle, right? They've already started doing their flights. We've got the city of Orlando, who's got their vertiport design standards that have been in place since 2019. Space Coast is in their plan as a key location for a destination. Miami has incorporated their AAM systems in their long-range plan, Miami-Dade TPO. And Tampa, I think this was November of last year, has had their very first all-electric vertical takeoff and landing system that will be your future air taxi fly out of Hillsborough, okay? They're right there. The DOT Aviation Office has 13 different companies on their list that are working through certifications to fly here. The slowest is hoping to be flying no later than 2028. So I'm going to leave you with this. This is Dr. Amara. He worked for Stanford, and he spent a lot of time analyzing how we incorporate technology, how we view it, and the future. And he said we tend to overestimate the effect of technology in the short run and underestimate the effect in the long run, right? We need to start thinking about it, folks, because it's already coming. I mean, a lot of these systems are, within a few years, you're going to start seeing these systems come online. It sounds crazy, but it's true. So it's time to prepare, right? If you're a future entrepreneur and you're looking to franchise a gas station, maybe now's not a good time to do that, right? Unless you have a better value proposition, right? Because if I'm going to stop somewhere to charge, why wouldn't I stop at Publix, Walmart, Target? Because they're going to have charging stations. These are not hard systems. We don't have a tank to install. You can drop them anywhere, right? So we need to have that value proposition. If I don't have to own a car, why do I need a garage? Why do I need a driveway, right? Home remodeling companies might have a real nice time coming up here in the near future, right? If we have connected and automated and ITS networks working, why do we need traffic engineers, right? A lot of these things are going to be automated. It'll be my joy if I get to retire because you guys don't need me anymore because these systems are so good that we don't have these crashes anymore. That would be my joy. Autonomous or advanced air mobility, right? One of the use cases that I came up with is Melbourne Airport. I love the airport. Love flying out of it, but obviously it doesn't have the same number of flights and destinations as Orlando. But what if I could get over to Melbourne, I could go through security, I could go ahead and get on one of these systems with my luggage, right, because they've checked it already, and they can drop me behind security in Orlando right close to my gate so I don't have to go through security again. Be there in 20 minutes. There's value there. There's a business case to have these systems come online. We just need to start being able to think about it. We're talking about a Brightline station. How about a multimodal hub, right? How much reach would we have if we incorporated these systems together? That makes for a lot of value, right? So I'll leave you with that. Do you want me to stand here for questions?
Mr. Chair, I just want to say thank you, Gil, because you really broke down what can be a very complicated subject to where it was just very easy to understand. And so I really appreciate that. That was excellent.
Yeah, absolutely. Great job, Gil. Does anyone have any questions or comments for Gil?
I have a comment. I'm overwhelmed. Thank you.
Okay, yeah.
Bill.
Appreciate your presentation. One of the discussions you heard today was our shortage of budget. And I'm familiar with the electronics of the battery cars and everything. How do you cover road tax? You said lower operating costs, but you're ignoring road costs, construction costs.
Right. Are you talking about our highway trust fund or the manufacturing of the vehicles?
Building new roads.
Okay, so that was addressed under the Highway Trust Fund issue. And the vision right now, Florida Federal Highway Administration has a system in place where they're doing research to look at alternative funding mechanisms. That was the map that was split kind of blue and green. And so they're looking at a road user charge so that if we are the ones who are using the transportation network, we would be charged based on how much we drive on that network. The more you drive, the more you pay.
And what's your time frame for that?
I don't have one. That's federal highway.
We're trying to build stuff this year and next year, and we don't have the money.
Agreed. Agreed. No, I absolutely agree. Unfortunately, that's way above my pay grade.
Well, Mr. Chair, so Gil, to be able to solve this problem, really, it does need to come from the federal government, right?
Yes.
So I think this is this is great news, because there needs to be a plan for our country, and not leave it to the individual states to try and figure this out. So I think this is excellent news.
Yep.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jared.
Yeah, hey, Gil, I get a lot of comfort thinking that the Google man and his girlfriend can pick me up in this little mobile and speed me to Orlando in 30 minutes while I drink a can of Bud Light.
I mean, yeah, at some point, right? You're not going to have to worry about open container laws because you're no longer driving. Just as police officers who spend all their days in traffic enforcement are not going to have to do that anymore because there's not going to be anything such as speeding, right?
Jared, go ahead.
Gil, thank you very much. I very much appreciated your presentation. I did have one question, though, about autonomous vehicles, and something I've always kind of wondered about is how insurance companies are handling autonomous vehicles, because obviously it's driving down accidents, it's reducing them, but it's not eliminating them, of course, because not everyone has one that's connected and all that stuff. So
Right.
just curious about how insurance companies are handling that.
The way that it seems to be handled now, and this is all evolving, is because the fleets are being owned by a commercial entity, it is the liability of the commercial entity if they're the ones that cause the crash. So another thing that you're not going to have to worry about in the future is insurance, right?
Thank you.
Very welcome. Okay. Yeah.
I
My
have one
email
question.
is on this. The
Yeah,
first
I
slide.
have a question for you. Since it's electric, my understanding is, well, number one, our grid is in horrible shape. It's going to take a lot more than what I believe you were talking about to get the whole system in the United States up to snuff. But isn't it possible that, say that someone that's in control of all of this has a kill switch and says, well, I want everybody to sit still, we got something going on, and bam, you're in your car or wherever, and you can't go.
Right.
Correct?
Yep.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that, because what I was kind of seeing here is that you are looking at a future where our ability to move around is contingent on an outside source and not on ourselves. Unless, of course, you do like they're trying in England with a 15-minute city, you know, that type of thing. But I really appreciate you putting this out here and the detail that you gave with it, too. Thank you.
Sure, yeah. So to respond to the security question, nobody's going into this blind. We are all very much aware that cybersecurity is a major component of what we need to fight against and protect our vehicles from, right? Whether it's autonomous, where it's connected, or ITS, a lot of these systems are constantly being revamped to prevent those threats from occurring. Because again, we're doing it right this time. We're not Henry Ford, who just said, you know what, I want to develop this thing called a car, right? And he just went and did it. We have been studying this for decades. We have been working on these systems for decades, and we're looking around and we're seeing what's actually happening. But if you want to think about your transportation system a different way, let me compare it to water, okay? There was a time when humans let's say even just folks within this nation, did not have a potable water system. Everyone had their own well, or you couldn't afford a well, you had to go to a central location for water, which could be contaminated, right? But now we have a potable water system. Anyone who, within reason, wants to be part of that network gets water whenever you want with a flat fee at very low rates compared to having to sync and maintain your own system, right? Transportation is going to be a utility in the same way. That is the vision. And because we're working on it together, our combined pool of funds will be working towards resolving things like security to making those networks secure. which is the opposite of the idea that we should all own our own vehicles and be responsible for making sure that we get, the regular updates and all of that jazz, right? Having a combined transportation systems that all the systems are maintained, not just software-wise, but physically. Because again, the liability shifts to somebody else, that company. They don't want to get a giant bill for getting into a crash because they blew a tire. They want their systems to hum, right? That is where the money is. So they're going to do everything possible to protect software and hardware. Okay? Thank you.
Anything else for Gil? Go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, my understanding is about 6% of the vehicles on the road today are EVs. Is that correct?
Let me see if I can find it here. If I look at the chart, our sales penetration rate is about 6.4% right now.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious, has there been any studies, or do you know what is the demand on our electric generation?
What our demand is on our electric generation? No.
And the increased cost of that demand?
No.
Factored into the cost of operating an EV?
That is, yes. That's what I did here. That is the current cost and the benefit. I own a regular internal combustion engine, and I pay about $1,400 a year in gas for that, assuming 10,000 miles a year. For an EV, if I don't have an FPL charger, I have to pay about $390 at my standard rate at the house, because I literally just plug a plug in, right? But if I get the FP&L Evolution program, FP&L's own network, right, it's $31 a month flat. And I charge as much as I want, as long as it's according to their system, which just happens to pull that electricity between about 10 a.m. and 6 a.m. Why? Because electric infrastructure is designed for a certain optimal level, right? And so at night, when we're all sleeping, it's very inefficient, that system. There's a lot of capacity that's not being used. So if we encourage people to charge at night, we're actually improving the overall efficiency of their system, which is saving them money.
Well, I guess I haven't made myself clear that you go from 6% to 100% of the vehicles being electric.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of electricity that you need to do that is going to require the electric companies, Florida Light and Power, to increase their capacity.
Mm-hmm.
There is a cost in increasing that capacity. EVs are about 6 times more, needs more electricity than heating your own home. So where is this capacity going to come from? How long is it going to take to build? And what is going to be the cost to us, not necessarily vehicle owners, but taxpayers?
Good question. Okay, so the answer is, I can only answer according to what I know of FP&L's program, okay? FP&L has been proactive. Since 2019, they have had a tariff to develop their own EV stations, right? And it's charged more than your residential rates, right? And I also have a flat fee that I'm paying them to take their electricity, right? So a portion of those funds are being reinvested into the grid to be able to scale it up as needed. We're not going into this blind. FP&L has known about this electrification for a long time, and they have been planning for it. And they are building out their network as we speak. They know, and they are working on it constantly.
Well, I was wondering, just, do we know what the demand is?
No.
If 100% of the vehicles in Florida are going to be electric, what is going to be the increased demand for capacity?
I cannot say I don't know, but I can tell you that FP&L is planning for it.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Adam.
Well, just a quick question as a result of my thinking process here. Do you have the statistical data on what the rate of vehicles that are electric versus gasoline for the last few years past? Do you know what the trend is right now? You talked
Yes.
about trend analysis.
This is the trend.
Totally overwhelmed on this one, too.
So what it's basically saying is in 2021, January, the market penetration rate was about 2.3%. And January of 2023, it was 6.4%.
So it doubled in how many years?
2?
Yeah, okay. Thank you. That's
Yeah,
what I needed.
So 40% year-over-year growth in fourth quarter of 2023. Right? So yes, it's absolutely increasing.
Eric?
Quick question. On one chart that you had there, it had EV charging stations, like locations across the state. So I'm curious if the strategy is more about putting those, and maybe the Federal Infrastructure Act emphasizes this, in like shopping plazas and big box stores and things like that, as opposed to gas stations. And do you have some statistics on how they're being deployed, and does that affect the rate of deployment?
So the charging network expansion is happening along two fronts. There's a public front and the private front, right? So the federal money is going down to the states are funding these systems, and they've got these criteria that they have to meet, okay? And one of them is it has to be public access, right? So what we're doing is basically filling in the gaps for those places where OEMs don't necessarily want to put their stations. Rest areas may be, a key area, right? Every 50 miles, but it has to be public access. There's a bunch of criteria that they're hitting, including areas that might be underserved by other networks. So Tesla is going to site next to really hot malls, your shopping centers. They want to be there because they want to sell you that electricity, right? But they may not necessarily be so excited about other areas. And that's where your public funds are going to go. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else for Gil?
Yeah, Ginger.
Yeah. Right. Same thing as gas-powered vehicles, right? If we have a major incident, we're going to get hit, right? And the fuel's going to run out eventually, right? Because we can't get the tankers in as happens. But now, instead of you having to rush to a gas station to fill up your car, because they're going to last the same number of miles. My 2018 goes about 280 miles. My EV6 goes 310, right? So it's about the same range. The question is, do I have to go to a gas station to charge, or do I charge at home, not worry about it, or hit a charging station and not worry about it because I don't have to do the lines?
Or in my case, jump on a bicycle.
Hey, absolutely. I had e-bikes and hoverboards and one wheels. It's not just cars. It's not just cars that are being electrified. It's everything.
Well, the cost on bicycles, the maintenance is roughly 2/3 more than a mechanical bike. I was curious on the car. I know it's a 2023 you're referring to, but what about the batteries?
A battery for an EV is supposed to last anywhere between 100,000 and 200,000 miles. Again, we don't have enough good data yet to really figure that all out because of temperature and all of that.
Right.
But these systems do a lot of work to maintain them at an optimal condition. So my car has fans that actually keep the battery cool. It can precondition the battery to maintain that battery life. It has systems in place to extend the amount of charge that it can take over the years. And I think he has got a 100,000-mile warranty on the battery anyway. However, if the catastrophic happens and my battery dies, some of the EVs cost for replacing the entire battery is about $6,000. So I think that's like the Nero. And there are others like Tesla's, $14,000. But the issue is that there's such a demand for battery materials right now that if you're trying to buy a battery, you're competing with new cars that are being manufactured right now, right? And that is a conversation that would lead to things like, what do we do with those old batteries, right? There's companies right now working on that problem, and they have, I think it was Redwood Materials, fantastic, innovative company, former Tesla employee set this up. They've got a battery recycling center that can recycle them to 98%.
Yeah, and they're making large sums of revenue off of it, too. There's a company called Call Recycle that does it for the bicycle industry. You ship them back a battery, and then they recycle it and get large sums of money for a recycled battery.
Yes.
Large sums of money.
Absolutely. So the vision, and this is part of the national strategy along
It's
electrification.
economically irresponsible.
Is, what's that?
It's economically irresponsible.
Well, there's a cost, right,
There
to
is.
doing that recycling. It's not cheap, right? And that's the problem. All these technologies are emerging, which means we're talking about a lot of prototypes, a lot of first times. They can only get better and more efficient over time and as they scale, right? Because there's not a huge demand for batteries yet that are aftermarket.
In my industry, there is.
Aftermarket.
In my industry, there is, because there's a lot of people who don't know about the care and feeding of a battery in my industry.
Right. So the goal of the national strategy is to allow electrification and recycling of those batteries to be part of the supply chain in a competitive manner to getting these new materials. So eventually, we'll be able to sort of lower that impact as recycled batteries come into the mainstream, and the value or the cost should normalize, to be relatively reasonable.
Well, just being exposed to the battery technology just in my industry, fire departments have to realign, charging, insurance on your home. If you divulge that you have an electric bicycle in your house, your insurance will go up. There's a lot of, and then also the technology required to use the bicycle. Tires will cost more, repairs cost more, maintenance cost a lot more.
For an e-bike? I wasn't aware.
E-bike, yes, sir. It's significantly higher than a standard mechanical bicycle.
Okay.
So I would imagine the car industry will be doing exactly the same thing.
I don't know. Since I've owned my 2 cars, as soon as I bought the EV6, my oxygen sensor on my car went out. You know what an electric vehicle doesn't have? Oxygen sensors, intake, coolant, exhaust, none of those things, right? So a bunch of the mechanical systems that are surrounding the ICE engine are completely gone. No mufflers, no muffler shops, no transmission, no. There's no transmission in an electric vehicle, right? I have to get a fluid change every 4 years. That is the next time that I have a major maintenance to be done on that vehicle. So it is very different.
Not sold yet.
Okay.
I'm an A.
Spend some time with me.
Anything else for Gil?
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Gil.
Thank you, Gil. Yeah, very informative. Really good job. Appreciate it. Next up, we're going to have our report section for today's agenda. The first report is from the Florida Department of Transportation.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I'm Chuck Coppenwell with the FDOT, and I'll be presenting the FDOT report. Before I begin my project updates, I would like to present changes into the construction report. The FDOT MPO liaisons have been working with their respective community outreach coordinators of each operation center to provide a construction report that provides a detailed snapshot of projects that are about to begin, in progress, or have been completed. The construction report of the past only went so far and only provided basic information that was somewhat helpful, but left the reader wanting more information. Also, they were a month behind, so the information was rather outdated. So the liaison team, along with their respective COCs, met to discuss a better format to provide crucial information at a glance, with a method to find information if needed. Then the team met with the COC team to implement the new format and establish separate due dates based on the individual MPO and TPO needs. So my COC, Max, submits his report to me on the last Monday of each month to meet the MPO's documentation submission deadline for inclusion into the agenda. So ladies and gentlemen, this is the first agenda with an recently updated report for you. So without further ado, this is the new construction report format. I would like to mention that this format is fluid, and it is not only for my benefit, but your benefit as well. So if you see any needs for improvement or have any suggestions, please let me know. We'll continue to build this. The top portion displays not only the project number and title, but also includes a map of the project location. So therefore, you have two helpful methods to find a particular project of interest. The project will be listed based on the project number in numerical order. Below the map are project details showing the contract number, the contractor who has awarded the project or the contract, the type of project that it is, in this case milling and resurfacing, and the project and the phase cost of the project, not the total cost. So in this case, this is construction, this is the construction cost. Next, I just want to mention the start and completion dates. Sometimes those get a little confusing. When the project is upcoming, the start and completion dates are basically estimates, because we all know that things can push those things around. So we don't typically have an exact date until we get real close to the actual start date. We typically start putting upcoming projects on the report about 3 months out, so you can get an idea of what's going to be happening in your respective communities. Then, as we get into more specific time frames, we'll start listing them as month and year instead of just early or late time of the year or a particular season. And projects will stay on the report until final acceptance has been issued. This means that the stakeholders have accepted the project, and the project will be dropped from the report the next month as it is complete. Something I want to note to everybody is that you'll also see the phrase final walkthrough. This is different than a final acceptance. Final walkthrough is when the stakeholders walk the project with the contractor, noting deficiencies that need to be corrected before it's accepted. So if you ever heard the term punch list, that's what they're doing, making that punch list. Finally, we have the description itself, which is basically a summary of the scope of work for that project. Below the description is the most recent updates of the project. That's where you'll find a description of the current phase of the construction, reason for any delays, and any other information that may be pertinent to this particular project. And the last thing I want to note is that the project number is in blue. That is because we embedded the link into CFL roads so that anybody reading this report electronically can click that and go right to the report itself, so you don't have to go through the process of getting on CFL roads to find it yourself. However, there are sometimes incidences with electronic technology that sometimes the link may not be accessible for some reason. So just remember CFL roads is the way to go, and enter that project number into the upper right corner of the search bar, and it'll bring you a list of what it's found, and typically the top link is the project itself, and click it that way as well. So on the project page, you can find additional information that's not typically included on the construction report. This can be anything from the project manager's name and contact information, the lane closure schedules, and uploaded material that was presented at a public forum or a public meeting for the project. You can also interact with the map by enlarging it and using the street view function as well. So these are all the new improvements to the construction report. And before I go into project updates, are there any questions on this particular portion of my presentation? Okay, good. So far I've gotten a lot of good feedback, and I'm glad to hear that. So I'm glad it's working out for everybody. But like I said, you got any suggestions on how we can improve it, let me know. We'll keep it going. Okay, moving on to project updates. I'm going to try to keep it short. We have a new project that's been added to the upcoming projects. This is a repaving project on State Road A1A from north of State Road 404 to south of Sherry Lane, running adjacent to the Patrick's Space Force base. It is set to begin later this month. This includes repaving 4 miles of roadway with safety improvements by constructing grass medians within existing two-way left turn lanes near the entrance of Pineda Beach Park to north of South School Avenue. Access to the park will not be impacted. In fact, they will be putting in an improved left turn lane that'll make it safer for guests of the park to turn into the park itself. And just a quick update on our raised pedestrian crossing project that we've been keeping an eye on for the last couple of meetings. They are still waiting for the updated project schedule and the project plans before a start date can be determined. 3 projects have gone through a final walkthrough: the milling and resurface project on State Road 5 and US 1 from Indian River County line to north of Goat Creek. Went through its final walkthrough on February 22nd. The milling and resurface project on State Road 3, Courtney Parkway at Mustang Way intersection, and went through its final walkthrough on February 21st. And the ITS improvement project on NASA Boulevard from Wickham Road to State Road 5 had a final walkthrough March 5th. And in closing, I will report that 1 project has been completed. The interstate ramp widening and resurface on Wickham Road and I-95 ramp has had its final acceptance on February 1st. So with that, are there any questions to any projects?
Question for Chuck.
Ginger, what a surprise. Go ahead.
US 1 from Miko area, what is the purpose of the reflectors that are in the shape of an arrow on the road?
Purpose of what?
They're reflectors that are placed in both lanes in the shape of arrows. For miles, there's bunches of them. It's such a treat to ride over them in my car.
Arrow-shaped reflectors. Oh.
Well, the reflectors are laid in the road.
I'll find that out for you. That's an interesting question.
For miles.
For miles, huh? On State Road 1.
Yes.
What?
No, they're raised reflectors adhered to the road in shape of an arrow. I've never seen anything like it before.
Is it intersection?
No, it's
No, I mean, can you give me an intersection on US 1 to give them a reference to look it up?
it's
Okay.
whole thing.
The whole thing.
Mr. Chair, that,
Yes.
I believe, is an area where speeding is a big problem on that section of US 1. So I don't know if perhaps it has anything to do with lane departure. I have no idea. But yeah, that would be interesting to find out.
Just never seen.
I'll find out, Ginger. That's a good one.
And tell them to give me back my bike lane or a wider shoulder, because when they repainted it, it's much narrower now on the northbound lane.
Okay.
Thanks.
Got it.
Anything else for Chuck? Go ahead, Jared.
Just one quick update on the raised crosswalks. So in Cocoa Beach, they did decide to put 1 raised crosswalk at the south, on the northbound lane at the south part of Cocoa Beach. So as you're coming into the residential, and then 1 raised crosswalk at First South as you're going south. So let me back up. 1 on the northbound, 1 on the southbound as you enter the residential areas. So there'll be 2 raised crosswalks total.
Instead of 1, like at the last meeting?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you. Go ahead, Peter.
Peter?
Yeah, first I'd like to say, this is a great start. I really appreciate that. This is good. But where applicable, I'd like to see between, point A and point B, what is the mileage or the distance?
Sure. We can put the distance in.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And just for reference, if you click that link, it'll show you the distance it's working as well, but we'll put it in the report for a quick reference, absolutely.
Sounds good. Anything else for Chuck?
Yeah, Cliff, I've got a question for Chuck. Chuck, in reference to the State Road A1A safety project, you have that you're going to upgrade it, equip them with PHBs, pedestrian hybrid beacons. For those who don't know what those are, if you would explain what they are, and also, are you considering? It seems to be that would be a greater, safety device for a lot of locations, especially along A1A where we've had problems before. So is DOT considering a greater use of PHBs?
I'll make a note of that and find out what their plans are, if that's going to be more widespread and all that. Absolutely.
Yeah, would you explain what PHBs are for those who don't know?
I wish I had the clear definition for that, but I will get that information. I'll get a good explanation for it.
I think Gil can answer that question.
Yeah.
I can as well. But.
All right. So a pedestrian hybrid beacon is like a traffic signal, but it's designed to service pedestrians only, right? So you might place this at a mid-block location, and instead of, for example, RRFBs that I'm assuming everyone's somewhat familiar with, a pedestrian actuates it just like a traffic signal, and what it does is the lights normally will be completely dark. It will start flashing yellow, right, to tell traffic that it's getting ready to go to red, then it goes to solid red, traffic stops, pedestrians are then allowed to cross, right? You get the standard crosswalk symbols and times, and then the system will go back to flashing and then eventually shut off once the pedestrians have crossed the street. That's your pedestrian hybrid beacon.
Thank you, Gil.
And I think the
Gil.
city of Cape Canaveral is very interested in something similar. They're definitely seem to be more popular than the pedestrian hybrid beacon because they do act more as a traffic signal, but they're also more costly, which is something to consider. And you know they're not appropriate for every single location, but they are very popular. And I know Cape Canaveral is interested in getting those on A1A as well.
Okay. Thank you, Chuck.
You're welcome,
Appreciate
Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Next up is our Bicycle, Pedestrian, and Trails Advisory Committee. Morning.
All right. Good morning, Sarah Crom, Senior Transportation Planner. The Bicycle and Pedestrian Trails Advisory Committee met on February 26th. We approved the transmittal, or they approved the transmittal of a Sun Trails Regional Trail Prioritization Letter of Support. Currently, the Florida Greenways and Trails Council, who's charged with prioritizing the Sun Trail Regional Trail System for Sun Trail funding, is in the process of reprioritizing. So we want to ensure that our 3 regional trails that are eligible for Sun Trails remain on top. We also conducted our strategic visioning workshop. So we're going to be helping the BPAC develop a strategic plan for the next year and a mission statement to guide the organization, or excuse me, advise the committee. Some project updates. The Southern Bride Trails Master Plan kicked off with their working group on February 22nd. We did receive the grant authorization for the North Maryland Pioneer Trail shortly after our March meeting, so that notice to proceed has been issued. And we are currently scoping a Dixon Boulevard Complete Street Feasibility Study with COCO. With that concludes my report.
Anything for Sarah? Okay, thank you, Sarah. Transportation Disadvantaged Local Coordinating Board Report. Morning.
Good morning, Kenneth Harley, Space Coast Area Transit. The Space Coast Area Transit had the local coordinating board on February 12th. At that meeting, they approved our grievance procedures, which is a requirement by the Commission for Transportation Disadvantage. They appointed 2 members to the grievance subcommittee. We had the approval of the annual bylaws, which is another requirement that the Commission for Transportation Disadvantage requires for CTCs to do on an annual basis. We also had the community transportation annual evaluation, which was conducted by the TPO, and that was on your agenda today, which you approved earlier. And we had the Transit Development Plan stakeholder interviews, and that was a great success getting the feedback from the members about future needs for the Transportation Disadvantage Program. Our next meeting will be on May 13th, so any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Any questions? Thank you. Public Engagement Report. Good morning, Abby.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Abby Hemingway. I'm the Public Information and Outreach Manager for the Space Coast TPO. And before we chat about some of our upcoming public engagement activities for March and April, I did just want to recap a few things that happened since we last met. So first and foremost, in February, we encouraged local schools and law enforcement agencies to recognize Crossing Guard Appreciation Day on February 1st. Our Education and Outreach Coordinator, Shelby Villatoro, provided partners in schools with a digital outreach toolkit, complete with card templates, certificates of appreciation, recognition letters for our communities to use at their fingertips to show gratitude for these safety superheroes. And as you can see, participation was across the board. Mainly our law enforcement agencies really went out for our crossing guards and just paid them the respect that they deserve on that special day. And then last month, we also held a modal partner workshop at Space Florida's headquarters to discuss the needs and priorities of the region as we continue to develop our 25-year long-range transportation plan. Those partners included some folks here today in the audience, Space Florida, the Space Force, Delta 45, FDOT, D5 office, NASA's Kennedy Space Center, the Office of Tourism for the Space Coast, Canaveral Port Authority, and Space Coast Area Transit. And as you can see from some of these photos, our attendees were really engaged in some collaborative activities and provided input on the needs that must be addressed for the future. We also had a whirlwind of helmet fitting last month, or so I say Shelby did. She led 2 separate trainings certifying new helmet fitters, and we're thrilled to announce that now we have 39 passionate individuals are now certified and equipped to promote safer cycling in our communities. We partnered with Health First for one training, and then FDOT D5 Office of Safety for the other, and they were a huge success. You know, not only did participants learn proper helmet fit, but they also learned key tips for safe cycling. And now these partners can make strides in helmet safety and promote it across the region. We also had some great outreach and partnership events. So last month, Bike Walk Central Florida, that team completed their first Operation Best Foot Forward crosswalk enforcement in Brevard County. And during that, when people crossed the street and marked crosswalks, giving drivers plenty of time to safely stop, those who did not stop were given a warning or citation by law enforcement. The Brevard County Sheriff's Office, their Cape Canaveral precinct, and the City of Indian Harbor Beach Police Department completed 7 details in total across various locations, which resulted in a total of 18 warnings and 26 citations. So this was really interesting to see. Of course, we saw the one that saw the most violations was right here by the county government complex in Viera. So it was very interesting to see this, and we're very excited about this partnership with Best Foot Forward. And then on the right there, at the end of the month, we had a blast supporting our community partners, the Titusville Area Chamber of Commerce, for their annual Ride It Down event, the community bike ride celebration in Titusville. We chatted with local bicyclists from all over, not just here in Brevard. They came in from, all across the region, from Volusia County, and also even from Citrus Hernando, they came over. So it was a great way to pass out safety resources, talk about Florida's trails, and we gave some goodies to riders as well. Looking forward, we are once again supporting the Spring into Fitness event that is put on by Running Zone and some of our local community partners here. We will be promoting the event here on social media. And just this past Saturday, Shelby led an adult bicycle skills class where riders hone their skills on a closed course, practicing gear shifting, hazard navigation, and similar skills. And the class ended with a 4-mile ride in Viera. Shout out to Ginger with Revolution Cyclery. She was there and was a huge part of the event by making sure that our riders felt comfortable on their bikes. So speaking of, March is Florida Bicycle Month, and we've kicked off the month-long celebration in support of the Florida Bicycle Association, which encourages bicycling and recognizes its important role in providing transportation and recreation to millions of our residents and visitors. So during this month, we're going to be promoting timely topics such as youth bike safety during spring break, trails, bicycle laws, helmet fit, and more. So we'll be collaborating with partners to educate our public about Bicycle Month. So here is just a snapshot of some of the things that we'll be doing, some outreach events, some topics on social media. And of course, March is also Women's History Month, and as far back as we can remember, the books take us, women have been pioneers in the transportation industry, from inventors to entrepreneurs to civil engineers. So we're gonna be using our social media platform to really highlight some women who have contributed to history, specifically transportation history. And then again, some upcoming social media topics. Hopefully you know that we are now in spring forward. And this is also a great time to check your vehicle recalls. And then looking forward, of course, we have St. Patrick's Day, which we do see, we see some injuries and some fatalities along that stretch of time. So we're gonna be promoting safety. And then April is National Distracted Driving Awareness Month. So we will be doing a huge campaign for that. And that's all I have.
Okay, anything for Abby? Great, thank you, Abby. Last on our reports is related to local governments. If any representative of local governments would like to report, you may do so. Jared? Good morning.
Good morning. I just want to say this will be my last TPO meeting. I've accepted another position, so just letting you guys know. We have Wayne Caragino as our alternate, and we'll probably be looking to get Morgan as a voting member, but this will be my last meeting, so thank you.
Thank you, Jared. We really appreciate your service to this committee.
Yep, Jared, it's been an honor to work with you, and thank you for all that you've done for the city, Cocoa Beach. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sure, our paths will cross at some point.
So.
You're not going away, you're going to still be around.
I won't be far.
Oh, good, good.
Yeah, Henry.
Today's meeting seemed really focused on safety, and I think you did a wonderful job on your talk. I just want to give a shout out to FDOT. They have repainted all of the stripes between I-95 and Babcock Street. Now, I know most of you people don't know where that's at, but that's 7 lanes of traffic that get about 30,000 cars a day. And I run that stretch almost every day between my house and my home. And at night, you could not see where the lanes were marked. And you got cars going 50, 60 miles an hour, not knowing what lane they're in. So I'm hoping there's a system set up with the DOTs that are monitoring these heavy traffic areas where you can't see the lanes. Because to me, that could be a relatively inexpensive way to increase safety.
It sure is, yes. Thank you, Henry. We appreciate that. Anything else to be brought in front of the committees this morning?
Mr. Chair, I do want to just say we have to vacate this room here shortly. Someone's going to be coming in at 12:30, but for the April meeting, currently it is scheduled, but if we do not have any action items at this point that we know will be coming to you in April, so we may be canceling the April meeting. We do not want to, we do not want to hold a meeting without a formal action item. So if you do get a cancellation, just be on the lookout for it. If not, we will see you here in April.
Okay, thank you, Georgiana. Thank you, everybody. This meeting is adjourned.